Welcome to another episode of the Peep Potential Success Show. My name is Fong. I'm an entrepreneur, business strategist, real estate investor, speaker, and also best-selling author. And every single day, I help others unlock potentials and guide them to succeed. Today on the show, we have another fascinating guest. On this show, we interview celebrities, entrepreneurs, business CEOs, athletes, and artists to find out their path to success, how they're able to overcome challenges and adversity, and of course, their keys to success. And today's guest is definitely somebody who could shine some light into that conversation because he is very, very good at what he does. He's been able to help a lot of his clients convert trauma into healing, convert negative energy into positive energy. Through his social media platform, he's able to help lots of artists out there really create generational wealth and also support those artists as well. He's a person who I've had the pleasure of listening to speak a few times, and he has this skill set of really getting you engaged in his talk, his message, because he is such a wordcraft and gets you really engaged into that imagery and that setting that he puts out there and really gets you into that story. So somebody I've always enjoyed listening to when he's on stage or when he's speaking on the virtual space. Through the art of business strategies, he's able to help entrepreneurs and companies come up with marketing campaigns and video ads to help them elevate their business and their exposure. He's done screenplays, he's done graphic novels, he's an author. So please welcome writer, artist, musician, speaker, MICAH YOTT.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hey, it's awesome having you here. Thanks for being here. How did you become this amazing artist with so many different credentials, so many different achievements, and at the same time, helping people deal with things that are so mentally engaged, like from negative to positive energy, from trauma to healing, all that kind of stuff? Is that something that you came out of school or were born with, saying, "Hey, this is what I want to do with my life"?
Hmm. I I guess to start with the first question, I got here one foot in front of the other. And as far as art goes, it's basically been like one distraction after another and self-expression through that distraction. And just putting 100% of myself into something. It doesn't matter what it is. Whatever catches my attention, I just consume it and become it. Just to put myself in it wholly, like a pool, just dive right in. And as far as everything I've created, this has been out of necessity, really. This past couple of years have been a really hard time for me. So I had to reset everything and start from zero. So what do you do when you start from scratch? You create anything and everything. So that's pretty much what I've been doing is nonstop creation every single day. Doesn't matter what I'm trying to do, it's going to be something I'm going to create. And it has helped me. It was like therapy. Besides connection and having conversation and being a part of your class, your speaker class, the Voice of Influence, this amount of connection is something new to me. And I'm getting used to it, but I love it because it's a new art form that I haven't gotten into yet. So I'm still getting my feet wet and uh, connecting with people and learning this art of speaking. It's such a powerful art, and it's so unique.
I find it interesting that you said it was because of distractions that got you into art, got you into all these different things. Now, lots of people take distractions as a negative, but you were able to convert distractions into something that's supportive and helpful and something that you can actually succeed in. So how did you manage that? Because it's not every day people go, "Oh, distractions, great. Let's do this and let's do that." How do you manage all these different things that you have going and still be able to focus on them? Because like you also said, you spend 100% of the focus on these items. So how do you do that while you're being distracted?
Mm. And there's a simple thing that I always follow, and it's it's like babysitting yourself. Uh, what are you focused on in this moment, and is it worth your time? Is it helping you in some way? Learn uh, something or develop yourself. And if it doesn't, then I kind of have to like rein myself in or remind myself with some type of noise or interruption just to get myself back on focus. And I try to do this as much as possible throughout the day because I notice that my attention will just go everywhere. Any type of stimulation, and it takes it. So I'm just reminding myself as much as possible, stay focused on what's important in this moment
Mhm.
and commit to being present. Don't allow something to come in and distract you from this moment.
How do you keep track of everything? Like as an artist, I know that mo most artists have lots of different projects on the go, from screenwriting to graphic novels to creating carpentry, art, and all that kind of stuff. How do you not let one kind of be forgotten on the wayside?
Mm. Well, it really comes down to a question of reflection for me. So when I'm focused on something or I'm planning on doing something throughout the day, I have a few plans. Um, it comes down to really the priority and the value for me personally, because I have so many projects going on. But if you can imagine, it's like a garden. You're not really going to grow everything all at once. So you have to just kind of tend your garden uh, casually and with love, each project, and try not to overwhelm yourself with a big garden because uh, sometimes that's too much for one person. So things will fall on the wayside, like you're saying, and you'll just forget about them. Obviously, they're not that important if you forgot about them, though, because you didn't make it happen.
Mhm.
So I look at it like a garden. I tend my garden constantly, every single morning, every single evening, um, with just love. What is it that I feel love from?
Mhm. Now, one of the things that you're really good at is converting negative stuff into positive, from distractions to something that works for you. And I believe that that is something that you need to train your mind to be accustomed to. Because most people see negative and they go, oh, they bundle up or they hide somewhere, they avoid it. How do
Yeah.
you look at something and go, oh, that's not negative, it's a positive. It's good for you. It's a learning experience. Do you have to go through daily things to keep your mindset positive or something that you've trained hard to maintain?
Mm. Well, the thing is, when it comes to something that's negative, um, I kind of look at it like it is like a class, like you're just enrolled in a class because you ran into a wall or some type of frustration. And now you get to treat it like a class. You can either, ignore and skip the class, go play hooky or something, or you can sit down and learn from this wall that you just ran into of frustration. And staying calm, that's really the main thing. I just try to stay calm in frustration because that's the trick, really. If I can stay calm and just pause and breathe and not say anything, then it will allow my mind to catch up because I feel like our minds move a lot faster than what we give
Okay,
them credit
I'm
for.
gonna have to ask this because yes, I've heard you speak a few times. We've been in the same sessions for over 2 months, and you are a very calm person. So if I was to paint a scenario that big problem, emergency, everybody's running all over the place, chaotic, everything. How do you stay calm? What do you say to yourself? What do you think about so that you're in that demeanor of, you know what, I can handle this. I could pick the right decisions to move forward. What do you do?
What is the problem? That's the question I ask myself immediately. What is the problem? And usually in a crisis, you already know what the problem is. It's then goes into what is the solution and if it's to take action or is it to pause and assess. And that's pretty much it. It's all in the pause because the initial moment you're like, panic, something's happening, everything's on fire. And then once you pause and assess, maybe it's a false alarm. Maybe it's not as big of a deal as somebody made it to be. Or maybe it is. Maybe it's serious and you need to act, but you still need to pause, figure out what you need to do, uh, especially if it's something life-threatening.
Mhm.
You need to act. So pausing allows you that moment to reflect and absorb information and then find the creative solution.
And that type of mindset is so important when it comes to entrepreneurship, when it comes to real estate, when it comes to business, whatever it is, that people need to kind of take a step back because sometimes the emotion is what gets them into trouble, especially in business and real estate. They just jump in, say a whole bunch of stuff, and then they leave and say, "Uh-oh, I think I just sold the company. That was not what I want to do." Um, Creativity is something that you're very good at, and it seems to come very, very natural for you. For lots of people out there who claim to have zero creativity, they can't pick up a pencil, they can't paint, they can't sing, they can't dance, they can't do anything because they say they can't. However, they realize that creativity is important in their lives. What would you recommend them do on a daily basis that would maybe hone or unlock that creative side in them?
Hmm. How to unlock creativity? I would say make it a game. If you can make anything a game, then it becomes fun, and then you'll do it again. So for me, what I like to do to kind of get my creativeness rolling is just watch other people. People are so creative and brilliant. And when you start following people and understanding that uh, creatively comes from some pain that they've experienced, and it's so unique to that person, and then the expression is so unique. So just watching people be creative will make you creative.
And a lot of it has to do with what do you call it? Has to do with their experience, what's relative to them, what their upbringing is, what their culture is. However, there's lots of people who are afraid to express themselves because of this day and age of cancel culture and people who are uh who say one thing, but it might get interpreted differently by somebody else, but they don't know what their background is and all that kind of stuff. So people are afraid to speak out. What's your take on that? Do you think twice before you put your comments on? Do you think twice before you express your thoughts? What do you do? Or are you concerned at all about cancel culture?
I honestly, I'm not concerned with them. Cancel culture. Uh, it sounds like a mob when you call it that. But yeah, as far as expression and putting like the muzzle on, I try not to do that. I try to just go forward and what my thoughts are. Of course, I'm not perfect, so I will hesitate and I will pause because I'll have fear and doubt, and uh, it will hold me back from expressing myself. But I also look at it like creativity is also a responsibility. Like, where is the line of creativity where it becomes abuse to others? I mean, you can call art almost anything, even violence. So I think it's important to look at creativity as it is a skill set, but it's also a responsibility.
Mhm.
You need to understand what is acceptable and what is not acceptable, or I should say, what is the human species ready for and what are they not ready for?
No, I know you work with lots of companies and entrepreneurs out there, helping them elevate their brands, helping them get more exposure, expanding their impact with video ads, marketing campaign, and logos and all kinds of stuff. And that's where your skill set is, the creativity side. Now, what have you found to be the most common issues or problems that entrepreneurs or businesses have that they're not doing correctly or they're missing, where you're able to come in and, oh, it's a simple fix. You need to do this differently, or your videos need to do this. What's the most common problems that you've seen?
Hmm. What is the most common problems? I would say it is intention. What is the intention behind the creation? Um, if you start with the intention and you make it as honorable and as benevolent as you can make it, uh, then you really can't go wrong. It could be like the worst quality, the ugliest thing, and the most awful to listen to. But if your intentions are so pure and you're just trying to make the world a better place with your creation, uh, You can't go wrong.
Mhm. What are some of the most difficult conversations you've had with entrepreneurs or companies who you go, hey, let's implement this video, let's implement this campaign, because it will for sure get more exposure, get more people coming to you. Yet they're like, oh, it's too new. We don't understand this. I don't know. Like there's always going to be some sort of back and forth. Do you have an example as to one of those situations that you had to either convince your way, persuade your way through, and to prove them that this is the way to go?
Mm. I've had to deal with that a lot in my lifetime, especially with creative people, because everyone has a vision and we're trying to blend visions. The best way I have found is just to leave room for something new. Um, and I say that with going into something like if you're trying to blend two ideas, you're not trying to make one idea eat the other idea. You're trying to make them mate and become something new, like a whole new thing. And when people do that, it's so much better, in my opinion, than having one idea eat the other.
Now, that's a very unique way of looking at creativity because I know a lot of artists out there who are saying, no, that's my idea. It has to look this way. It has to be this color. It has to be all these things in order for them to express themselves. Yet you're coming in for a mindset of, hey, let's add this. Let's mix it together. Let's create something new. Is that common? Is that common for artists to really work together on things, or have you found most of them kind of become the lone wolf?
No, I think it is. I think it is common. I mean, really, when you're in a mindset of creation, it's just play. So it's like watching two children play and pretend. There's no real resistance there. They're just going with the flow. And then when you get away from that idea of play, and you start looking at it like it's real serious and everything's very serious, and we need to be serious about it. It's like, how about we just take a breath and relax? You don't need to be serious. We're all not, this ride, we're not getting off of it alive. So take a breath and understand that we're just trying to play here. We're having fun.
Mhm. How do you set the mood? Like when you go into a collaboration or with a client, how do you set the bar of, hey, we have to have fun? Once we feel that we're not having fun, we need a discussion. How do you go right into it and say, okay, here are the rules, here's how we're gonna act on this, uh, so that everybody's on the same page?
Yeah, yeah. Setting the rules ahead of time and then just gentle reminders. That's really all you can do.
Mhm.
Because once people are understanding of the rules, I mean, they're going to make mistakes and slip up and get serious or get aggressive because of anxiety or whatever. And it's okay to pause and, just gentle reminder. Let's everybody pause and we're trying to have fun.
Mhm. Now, else that you've created to help other artists out there is ARC. You support them, you teach them how to create that generational wealth. How did ARC come about? Was it something that you've always wanted to do, or were you seeing that there's an issue out there or something that was missing that you go, you know what, let's create this so that we could have a good foundation community for artists to kind of join into?
Definitely, definitely. So that idea was a combination of things that I've always desired. I've always desired a martial arts dojo that was an expansion from that to full-on education. Uh, and going through school, public education system, there was no such thing. Our outlet was gym, uh, which was great, but it was limited. And then there was no group therapy or sound therapy or any type of therapy really through school. And I think that's most important for kids is to have the constant therapy and reflection, understanding their emotions as they uh, develop. And this gym or dojo, I wanted to expand it beyond that even because I was thinking too small. So I started thinking of like theme parks and just a massive experience that people can go into and heal essentially in any direction.
Mhm. You mentioned healing. One thing that you're good at is helping people who are struggling with trauma and converting that into energy to heal. What's that process like? And it's not common for people to go, hey, I'm going to take this in that's very, very difficult into something that I could use to heal. How do you do
Mm, yeah. And that's again, the healing process is, I have found, is a lonely one, because you really cannot rely on another person to heal you. You have to separate and you have to reflect and you have to slow down so much that you can get back in touch with your emotional state. And when you can get back in touch with it and process any emotions that you're essentially resisting from trauma or pain from your childhood, and then accept them as if they're reality, and the fact that we are insignificant, that uh, we are simply a temporary thing, that we need to remember that and get back to the moment.
that? Now, you're also the author of the book Evolution, Then Revolution. Is that something that you've always strived to kind of have that message out there? Or how did that book come about as well? Because you're already doing so many different things. And you're like,
Yeah,
hey, let's be an
yeah,
author too.
yeah, yeah. And that's true. I sometimes I get going so fast that I start doing too much. Um, that was essentially a free process. That was like my journal through my latest trauma endeavor or my healing process. And I would journal my process down, and I wanted to give it away so that people could copy it. And if they needed to process some sort of childhood trauma in a very lonely state, they could if they just followed what I did. It is very basic. It's not anything new and exciting, and it's simple. And that's pretty much what I did every single day until I found peace.
Now, when it comes to all this creative stuff that you've been doing, most people who are in the creative mindset is usually behind the stage, behind the screens. They're working on their craft, they're working on their creativity. You've decided to now jump out and become that speaker, go out there, spread the message, speaking with people, large groups and whatnot. How was that transition for you? What made you go, you know what? I need to break out of this typical creative person into the person who's out there spreading the message as well.
That was an act of desperation. I, like I said, was going through an extremely difficult time in my life, and I was falling apart. And I hit essentially zero. And once I hit zero, I had nobody, and I had a lot of trauma to process. And I needed somebody to listen. So I found somebody to listen, which was a whole group of people. And even though I was going on stage in front of a bunch of strangers to, pour out my everything in a vulnerable moment, it allowed me to accept the fact that I needed it. I needed somebody to listen to me. And from my whole life, I was accepting of not being in the front, being in the back and hiding. That way, nobody had to really pay attention to me.
Mm.
And I was happy with it. But that desperation pushed me out on stage, and I needed to speak. Something needed to be said.
And what was the biggest challenge or biggest aha moment for you when you're on stage? Like something you did not anticipate or something that you did not prepare for that you go, oh, okay, this is what it's like.
Yeah, yeah. It was the moment where I was like, oh, everybody's listening. I
I guess it's my turn
was like,
speaking.
this is what I wanted. But everybody's listening now, and it's like, oh, that's what it feels like. And it's like that aha moment is you either like it or you don't, and or you shy away from it. And I looked at it like it's a new thing that I want to explore, a new feeling.
Now, as a speaker, you understand the power of storytelling. as a creative mindset, you also understand the power of storytelling, because art is not only is art the actual item in front of you, but there's also a story behind it that people need to hear for them to actually appreciate that art. So when it comes to storytelling, like I said before, your wordcraft, you're able to put things together. You make the imagery very, very vivid for people to engage with. How does one develop strong storytelling skills?
Hmm. How does one develop their storytelling? That is a great question. I would start with practice. That's where I would start.
Mhm.
Start with something short, 3 or 4 lines, maybe 5 lines to make it a nice odd number. So we have a beginning and an end. 5 lines. If somebody can write a story in 5 lines, then they can become a great storyteller.
A whole story of 5 lines. That
That's
is
it.
pretty impressive. So when people start working on storytelling, does it also have to do with how they present it? Like when they read their stories out loud, how much of that goes into changing what you wrote?
Mm, yeah. Yeah, reflecting on what you're writing. I've read my own work to myself a few times, and when I was reading it, it was like I was trying to imagine if I was reading it to myself as a child, or if I was reading it to my daughter. I tried to steer away from that one because my graphic novel is a little bit more adult, and I didn't want to pretend that. So I pretended that I was reading it to myself, and that allowed me to kind of hear the story instead of just writing it and reading it. And when I can hear the story and it just there was a certain rhythm to the words, almost like a song, and there's no weird spots that you're like, that tripped me up. And that's just me reading to myself.
Mhm.
So that's pretty much how I approached it.
I see. No, I know there's a lot of people out there who struggle with self criticization, where they do a video and they go, "Oh, I don't like this, I don't like that, I can't put it out." Or they write a book and they go, "Oh, this grammar so bad, I can't put that out." How do you separate yourself from self-criticism? Where I know usually we're our own worst critic. So
Yeah.
how do you separate yourself from that so that you're still confident enough to put things out there?
The self-doubt, man, that is the hardest thing for me. Is when you're because it for me, I struggle with perfectionism and self-doubt. It's so brutal. And criticism, like that voice in your head, is so relentless. So basically, I get to a point where I say it's good enough and I move on and let it go into the world like a feather floating away. And I think that's really the best way I can approach it.
Mhm.
Because once you create something, it's no longer yours. You have to let go of it so it can be part of the world in this matrix.
So it's a feeling though. Having it be good enough is a feeling. So for you, if you had to quantify what that feeling is, what is it? How does a person go, okay, I hit this level, it is good enough. It's not perfect. I know that it's going to spend me years and years and years to get to perfect. In fact, I may not even get there. So what is that feeling of good enough? Let's let it go.
Yeah, satisfaction. What is satisfaction? That's a great question. Satisfaction is definitely a subjective thing. Um, for myself, if it gives me a feeling of inspiration, just looking at it or hearing it, some sort of emotional reaction, then to me, it's good enough. If it can cause that stir in the reality around me, then I expect it to do the same for somebody else.
Awesome. Now I know you have a lot of stuff going on. You have screenplays, you have graphic novels, you have books, you have art, all that kind of stuff. What's your next big thing that you're very excited about? You may or may not want to share, but because you want to keep that tight to your chest, but just give us a snippet as to what's in store for Micah.
Okay. Well, I'm currently working on the sequel to my graphic novel, so I'm almost finished with that. Uh, I'm going to put that out there, and I have some hands-on art, physical art that I'm going to start working on because I've been doing digital art for so much of my time that I want to also do physical art. So I'm getting back into wood carving and painting, and yeah, basically putting myself out there for service while I'm doing this kind of escape from the digital world, just as a coach for people that need some type of guidance and anything really.
Very, very cool. You mentioned digital space. AI right now is a big thing when it comes to art, creativity, and all kind of stuff. Do you see AI becoming a big issue when it comes to creativity and artists?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think it's going to be such an addition of a tool to creativity. And the amount, imagine this. If somebody said, I have this idea for the internet, and everyone was like, shut up. And he said, or she said, here, let a kid play with it. And then they do something amazing with it because they're so creative. And it had no intention or even imagination of it being used that way. But a child turns it into something amazing. And I have a feeling about AI. I feel like AI, once it really starts taking off, and then kids get their hands on it, they're going to do something amazing with their systems and intelligence.
Mhm. And it just allows them another avenue of expanding their creativity. So if you were put onto the world stage again and you have one message for everybody to remember Micah for, what would that message be?
That we need to slow down and we need to tend the garden.
Very, very well said. Goes right back to the planting of the seeds that you had before. Before I let you go, I got five quick rapid fire questions. Give me the first thing that comes to mind. All right. You're stranded on the desert island, one food to eat for the rest of your life, no consequence.
No consequence. Whew, definitely ice cream.
Nice choice. That would be one of mine as well. When Hollywood calls and goes, "Hey, Micah, we love your story. Very, very inspirational. Who would you cast to play you?"
To play me. Huh. I was hoping to play myself.
Okay, you're playing yourself, but you get to pick somebody to play your best friend.
Oh, my best friend now. Hmm, that is a tough one. Who comes to mind? Probably Trent Reznor.
Very, very cool. He shows up at your door and goes, "Hey, I got cast to play your best friend. Let's hang out. Let's have a great time." And you go, "Hey, no problem. I got the whole night planned out." What's that night look like to you?
Interesting. Interesting. Probably starting a fire.
And then moving on to
Who knows?
very well done. So he's hungry, and you go, "Hey, no worries. I got something cooked up right away, and it's my specialty." So what's that special dish that you could cook up?
Hmm. I think I probably would cook up honey cornbread chicken pot pie.
Very, very nice. Sounds awesome. And my last question is, well, once I get there, give me a number from 1 to 5.
4.
1, 2, 3, 4. So the word is leprechaun. And if you had to use leprechaun as a metaphor for success, how is success like a leprechaun?
Interesting. How is success like a leprechaun? It's a myth.
Very nice. Awesome.
Success is a myth.
So success is a myth. Um, Any last words from you? How do people get in touch with you? Whether they want to work with you, have you work with them? What's the best way?
Well, you can email me. It's just my name at gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. So for everybody out there, make sure you connect with Micah. Obviously, you can see that this guy is very, very creative. He's been able to help a lot of people with their video ads, marketing campaigns. So reach out to Micah. And until next time, he's Micah. I'm Fong. And today is the last day. Today is the day to unlock your peak potential. We'll see you later.